Sometimes life is a waiting game. The 21st century has been defined by speed and efficiency. Business, social interactions, and even downtime have all been streamlined and tuned. But then, there is nature. Forgotten to many in a fast-paced world, nature offers us a gift that nothing else can. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Adopt the pace of nature." Her secret is patience. When we can accept and be at peace with Mother Nature and her timing, then we can learn to find the beauty and importance in each precious drop that life has to offer. The first written documentation of maple sugaring in North America was reported in 1557. This ancient tradition is still being practiced by a select few today. One of those sugar makers is Omar Reece. Omar is the father of 4 boys and the head of reliability engineering at U.S. Bank. In the past few years, he has become very passionate about the process of sugar making.
The process is real simple. Maple trees are tapped, and when the temperature goes below freezing at night and above freezing during the day, during the spring, they produce sap, and the sap comes out of the taps into buckets or bags. You take that sap, and usually takes about 40 gallons of that, and then you boil it down. The thing you burn in is called the arch, so the thing with the chimney is the arch. Okay. You put the wood in the arch, and then a pan sits on top of the arch. And the pan is 2 feet by 4 feet, it's stainless steel, and it holds 40 gallons of sap. So really you just get a fire going as hot as you can, and the sap starts evaporating, so it kind of looks like all this steam coming off, and it's a rolling boil, so it's 212 degrees, and you just go through that process until it goes down in the pan, until like the very bottom, and then from there you take the pan off, and then I drain off that liquid, so it goes from 40 gallons to start, and I probably boil it down to about 2.5 gallons. And so now with this 2.5 gallons, I move it to another stove system, and then I'll boil it again. But once it starts boiling down to around like a gallon, that's your pure syrup. And then there's a device you use called a hydrometer, and that device measures the sugar content. So when that device tells you that it's syrup, it's officially syrup. And then you filter that off. There's a triple filter system, and then you put it into sterilized jars, and you're done. And then there's your syrup.
This simple yet complex process can be equally challenging and rewarding. Each season brings an opportunity for growth.
My relationship with syrup is maturing. I definitely have gotten into making syrup over the last couple years. It's something I've dabbled in earlier in my life, but as the pandemic hit and I was kind of looking for more hobbies being around, this was a natural fit because we're blessed to have a 7-acre place with about 4 acres of woods, and I was able to just get enough equipment to make it kind of a hobby, and then I started really getting into it. And so a lot of it had to do with just being outside. My day job, I'm talking to people all the time, so just the solitude of it sometimes is really kind of a refreshing break. Well, when you have a hobby like this, it's not something that you could just substitute for buying something in a store. It's really, for me, it's all about kind of the overall experience. Like I get to spend time with family, I get to spend time with friends, I get to spend time alone, and that really, that type of community and that collaboration is something that you can't buy at a store. So yeah, while economically it would probably make more sense to buy it at a store, this becomes for me like a craft.
A craft like maple sugaring, which is so dependent on the timing of nature, forces you to develop the art of patience. This season in particular was a testing one, as the sap flow was delayed about 3 weeks.
Well, I realized this year that I'm not a very patient person, and my personality is more exact and precise, and this has been a really good test for me to see how I deal with everything that's the opposite of that. And this year has been, an incredible year for just having to deal with what Mother Nature throws at you, and it's so unpredictable, and even when you think you know the weather, it changes.
As each day passed with no sap flow, Omar quickly realized that he was going to have a problem.
So we had a spring break trip planned, and the sap seemed to be ready to come. And so I needed to come up with a solution to that. And luckily, I have a couple buddies that had expressed interest in, people always say like, well, let me know when you need help. And so I said, I need help. And so we needed a creative way to solve the problem because we were going to be gone.
Omar reached out to his close friends, Damian Poling and Rick Hipsch. They were both more than willing to help.
They would check the taps, and if there was sap in there, they would take it out into buckets and pour it into the tank.
So we're here live at the Reece Ranch here on Golden Oaks, and my name is Rick Hipsch. I'm going to do a little collection, or hopefully some collection, of some maple syrup today here. Got the red flannel on, which is obligatory for this kind of adventure. Got about 50 different trees we're going to check today and just see if we have any maple syrup.
When you have old friends like that, it's just a great way to connect, and I'm super grateful for the help, and it's just it just shows great friends withstand the test of time.
While Omar was on vacation, there was a little sap flow, but the seal still hadn't been broken.
So even when we got back, it just seemed like it would never really pop. And luckily, over the last several days, we've had that great, below freezing at night, above freezing during the day cycle. And it's just been phenomenal, really, really going nuts the last couple days. So I think the past is behind us. Now we're just looking forward to seeing how much we can harvest this year.
Nature is fuel for the soul. In our time, there are so many things that pull us away from nature, leaving many people feeling like their life is missing something. Being in tune with nature is wired deeply in our DNA, and developing hobbies like sugar making or gardening can fill that void.
When you have kind of more of a white-collar job, and you're sitting at your chair all day, talking on your phone or, on your computer, it's kind of nice to get out here and be outside and hear the birds and hear the hawks and look up and wonder what they're looking at. And but I've been able to see turkeys, and we have lots of deer, and just things that most people don't have the chance to kind of see. And I'm able to walk around my property and collect my sap, and I get to experience all that.
Omar has an admirable level of generosity in him that is truly inspiring. He is constantly trying to give others the best experience possible, and he ends up giving most of the syrup away.
Yeah, we end up giving most of it away, which is great. I think this year we kind of ran out a month ago, so maybe I'll keep a little bit more in reserve.
Omar's syrup has found its way onto many families' breakfast tables in the past few years and has brought many people together along the way. As word gets out about his story, more and more people are interested and want to help out. When the time comes, he would love to be able to pass this tradition on to his sons.
I think wherever they end up living, this probably would always be something that could be done. When I started out, I had 4 small maple trees, and we still managed to make a pint of syrup. So it would be fun, to have that be part of, their families, and we could turn this into quite the spring tradition.
Besides being packed with nutrients and antioxidants, each jar of Omar's maple syrup is full of lessons learned, friendships nurtured, and memories of the people it brought together. He's reminded of this each time he uses his syrup, whether in his yogurt, on his ice cream, or even in his
whiskey. Tastes pretty good.
So I've started using the syrup all the time. I mean, I'd say every day I have probably at least like a tablespoon of syrup. So you know, when you do that, you get out the jar and you kind of start to know, like, earlier in the season it's lighter, later in the season it's darker. So you're like, okay, this is a later in the season batch. Oh, this is in a quart jar, not a pint jar. And so you kind of remember, you know, the time that, or the weekend that you canned that, or who was with you. So that's been nice too, because it's not like it's the same every time. It's different every time, and that kind of, that uniqueness is kind of fun to replay in your head.
What we can learn from Omar's story is that everyone is given the same 24 hours. The thing is, only a select few choose to do something meaningful at that time.